Live from New York, it's the show that is running an active test on rest versus rust. Oh, it's first things first. Today, we start with Rodgers' "oh no" line. I don't know.
You wrote that?
Well, first day back. Everything's going swimmingly for the Jets except for the work-in-progress O-line. In a recent Hard Knocks episode, Robert Saleh said you can have a Hall of Fame quarterback, you can have two $10 million receivers, you can have your iPhone on during the show, and none of it matters until the big guys up front change who the blank we are. We as coaches, we as an organization can't want it more than you. Whoa. Yeah. Here's Rodgers last week on his offensive line. Give it a week.
Yeah.
Give it a week. Will the Jets O-line doom their season?
Well, it's certainly the leading candidate, but it's not the only candidate. The first guy we heard from, didn't hear from, the quote, he could. The coaching could.
Wow, you're not a fan of Robert Saleh.
He seems like a really good guy. I have no reason to believe he's a good head coach. We have no evidence of it. We have none.
Last year?
There's no. No, I
did a pretty good job.
I thought he did a fine job.
Okay.
But so he's had one bad season, one fine season. I'm saying let's say the jury is out on their head coach. Sure. I think that is fair, and I'm leaning towards, from what I've seen from him in game, not overwhelmingly impressive. The aging quarterback coming off the worst year of his career, coming off an injury, that could doom their season. The fact that they seem incredibly reliant on one great skill position player on the entire team, that could doom their season. If a guy suffers an ankle sprain, they have one established, excellent skill position guy, Garrett Wilson. That's it. What's this confused on? Who's the second? Who's the second great one?
Didn't they just sign Dalvin Cook?
Okay, all right. Well,
I'm not saying he's what he was 2 years ago, but he is very good.
Okay, well, the whole league had access to him.
It's a running back. They don't want to overpay him.
Okay, so that's fine. If you think Dalvin Cook is a great player, I don't.
I said
they have one great skill position player, happens to be a second-year player. And then there's the offensive line, which is an obvious disaster.
Yeah, seems like it.
The offensive line, who Mekhi Becton is right now, who was drafted to be their left tackle, playing right tackle with the second stringers. Because Robert Saleh said last week, I don't think it's fair to make him a starter until we know he can play an entire game. Seems like a problem. Their left tackle is Dwayne Brown, except right now he's not because he's 38 years old and injured. So they're alternating left tackles. The right tackle, who's the most talented offensive lineman on the roster, has played one game in the last 2 years basically. He is their backup. They have a good guard, and their coach and quarterback are already signaling the alarm. These are all problems, Brew. And I know they're your Jets, Brew's Jets.
No, they're
Brew's
not
Mets.
my Jets. I'm just a little more optimistic than you.
What? No, I'm just.
I do agree that the offensive line is the biggest problem.
Okay.
All right. I think the second, you kind of alluded to this because you guys know I'm high on Rodgers.
Yeah.
But that is a question mark. Like, that's the second question mark.
Yeah.
Who is he? Is he the guy from 2 years ago or close to that? Or is he the guy from last year and close to that?
Yeah.
So those are issues, but I'm going to say that the offensive line will not doom them. All right. Mekhi Becton, the dude is getting on my nerves, but he did at least play in the last preseason game, and he played like 20-something snaps, which was a plus for them. I get it was with the second unit, but still, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts on Saturday because they got to get him in there with the starting line. I'm not saying he's going to be their starter, but I want to see what he can do with those guys. Mm-hmm. Dwayne Brown, I get it. The age is like his 16th year.
Yeah.
But he'll be back.
And I love Dwayne, but he's one of the oldest players in the league.
Right, could be a question.
Problem.
But I think the offensive line will be better. All right, they've been banged up. They haven't been able to play together. I think Rodgers, with his quick release, obviously smart, I think he'll make them better. Look, Joe Burrow, and he's better than Rodgers right now, we believe. I mean, unless Rodgers really bounces back. But he's been able to do it with the poor offensive line the last few years. So I think Rodgers playing close to what he was 2 years ago will be able to be okay with. And I totally disagree with your assessment of their skill position players. Garrett Wilson, yes. Very good. Great.
He's the great player I'm talking about.
Lazard is a good number two.
He's a
number two. I'm just saying, you got one great receiver, and then you got a couple of good ones. McCole Hardman is solid.
What?
And then Breece Hall might be special.
Breece Hall.
So you got him and Dalvin Cook is a nice running back tandem.
If I may, just real quick, and I'll leave the Dalvin Cook stuff for now. Every other team that we talk about, it is not because they have, I shouldn't say they have one skill position guy that you can trust. The Eagles, what do they have? They have 2 number 1 receivers. The Niners have 2 number 1 receivers and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. In Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, I said McCaffrey. We know what the Bengals have. The Chiefs are almost in a separate category because they have just the one, but the quarterback is so much better than everybody else. The Chargers have 2 excellent receivers and just drafted.
One.
Yeah, and they're in trouble too, by the way.
Yeah.
The Bills, by the way, are in trouble too, and most people expect Josh Allen to be better than Aaron Rodgers this year. And the Bills are in the Jets division, one of the team they're chasing. Like I don't understand. When we have seen Russell Wilson change teams and fail, Deshaun Watson change teams and fail, Matt Ryan change teams and be out of the league, Phillip Rivers change teams and be out of the league. Tom Brady.
Aaron Rodgers is not Tom Brady, but he's closer to Brady than he is to any of the guys you mentioned.
I disagree. I do not think that Aaron Rodgers is closer to Tom Brady than he is Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan. Tom Brady, what do you mean?
In terms of historical achievements, he's not further away from Phillip Rivers than
I think Tom Brady has so far lapped the field on everything when it comes to historical achievements and when it comes to holding off.
But don't you have Rodgers? Is he in your top 5?
Top 10.
Top 10.
But holding
Rivers
off.
nowhere near that.
Yes, I agreed if we were listing out quarterbacks 1 through 50. There's a smaller gap in number between Brady and Rodgers than Rodgers and Rivers or Rodgers and Ryan. What I'm saying is
that intelligent way he admitted I was right.
Well, it's a matter of perspective. I think that what will an aging Aaron Rodgers look closer to? An aging Phillip Rivers, an aging Big Ben, an aging Matt Ryan. Big Ben didn't have changed teams. Or the one guy who broke all of the rules and records for aging
played
quarterbacks.
well with a new team. Kansas City, they didn't win it.
No, of course. And by the way, so Peyton Manning played well with a new team.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's never been done. I understand that. But I just don't get the overwhelming optimism.
Last year, total sacks. Eagles 1, Chiefs 2 at this point. How many years do you see Rodgers playing, bro?
2.
Okay.
Period.
That's about right.
2. And I would actually go closer to 1 than I would to 3, even. Because if he is not the old Aaron Rodgers, he's just an old Aaron Rodgers, then I could see it being 1 and done. Like if this year goes really bad, if he's not that good anymore and he's got no protection and they are disappointing, then yeah, I could see him stepping away after 1. What I see happening is him being pretty good, them being pretty good, possibly making the playoffs. And let's say they make the playoffs, get beat in the first round. Whatever.
10-7 wild card, losing round 1.
Right. Then he's coming back next year, and they're thinking, okay, this is it. This is the year we can win the Super Bowl. They won't do it, I don't believe. And then he might step aside. So, that's what I'm predicting.
Listen, Rodgers is an interesting guy in a lot of ways. He's also... It's very difficult to take anything he says at full face value, even if in the moment he believes what he's saying. Because, to go from 90% retired to could play another half decade with a new team.
For the Jets,
right?
No less.
In less than 6 months is quite the pendulum swing. So I think it is. I think 2 years is his plan, with maybe 3.
Yeah.
I also think, so Coach Mangini, once upon a time, was a coach of the Jets, had a great year and then a tough year, and then they bring in Brett Favre, and they have super high expectations. They're 8-3. Favre gets hurt, and they lose 4 of their last 5, and he gets fired. And Coach Mangini has been very, adamant on this show that he thinks that same owner that fired him when they brought in a Hall of Fame quarterback with Super Bowl expectations, that if this team does not have a great year, the coach will be in the hot seat. So can I just throw a scenario out to you?
I can see it coming. Go.
Okay. So let's say they have very similar to the year Bruce said. Rodgers plays well. The defense takes a bit of a step back. Whatever it is, they're 9-8. They miss the playoffs. But Rodgers does not look cooked. And Robert Saleh gets fired. Man, oh man, something tells me that Aaron Rodgers could absolutely go to Woody Johnson and be like, yeah, thinking about coming back, thinking about staying, thinking about retiring. You know what would make me come back? If you guys make sure that head coach search is internal.
Yeah.
Nat Hackett didn't get a fair shake in Denver.
100%
He has head coaching experience.
100%.
I don't want to change the offense.
Yep.
This is, so if you want me back for a year or two, you know, I signed up to play with Coach Saleh. It was all great. You made the choice to fire him. I think Saleh is on a hotter seat than people expect because there are such high expectations. I absolutely would expect Aaron Rodgers to say, I want Nat Hackett to have that job.
Let's stay with your scenario quickly.
Which is a great scenario.
Would you do it? If you're the Jets, if you're Woody Johnson.
You have to.
You would have to.
I would do it.
You would have to. That's my point.
It might only be a year.
Right.
But
if it's that Aaron retires, if he had played well this year, and they just, it doesn't go great, or maybe they have some game management gaps like I thought the Jets had last year, and it's like, okay, Saleh's not the guy. Again, I'm not advocating for Nat Hackett over Saleh, but I feel like Aaron Rodgers has made it very clear there are few people in this world he loves and respects more than Nat Hackett. And if he's talking about playing multiple years, that's something I just feel like mark that down. I feel like the Nat Hackett getting a second chance thanks to Aaron Rodgers is more than on the board.
Dalvin Cook excited to be on the Jets. Brew, your reaction?
Well, look, I like it. I love it. I mean, I know you wanted him too.
No, I didn't. We specifically didn't put this in the show. They're like, Wildes, what if the Patriots miss out on Dalvin? I was like, whatever. I was like, what? It was a big whatever.
I can't believe how down Nick is on Dalvin Cook. And I'm not saying he's a top 4 running back in the league. But Dalvin Cook is legitimate. And Breece Hall looked great last year until he got hurt. So it gives you time to make sure he gets back, to full strength.
Not having to rush Breece in. I like that.
He can run. He can catch. I think this is great. Now, I do think that the Jets are fringe contenders. We haven't made our picks yet. It's still going to be tough to pick who makes the playoffs
next week, guys.
Yeah, out of that division. But look, let's say they get to the playoffs. If you get to the playoffs in the AFC this year, you're a good team. And I wouldn't pick them as a favorite. I like several teams better than them. But if they get to the playoffs, it means they've been playing good football. And you've got Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame, Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Playoff runs.
Well, I'm down. I think they're capped. I would pick against them probably in the conference finals if they got there, or championship game. But they are a fringe contender. If you get in the tournament with Aaron Rodgers as your QB, you got to be taken seriously.
Okay, the Jets are exactly what they were before they signed Dalvin Cook. So if you had them as legit Super Bowl contenders before, then they still are. If you didn't, then they're not.
I tend to agree
and I think
with that.
Here's the thing about
but it's a good signing.
Almost any August NFL signing, it's the football version of NBA buyouts. It's big names. Think it's going to tilt a championship picture, and they almost never matter at all. Kevin Love
this year is now with running backs.
No,
because running backs just aren't getting paid.
I understand that, but you could not get paid months ago. I mean, I think the same.
He was waiting to see. He thought he was going to get money.
Oh, did you see he signed this week? Clowney, for number 1 pick. Zeke. We're going to talk about him later in the show. I heard you bring up on America's Favorite Podcast this morning the Patriots, one of their big players, Trey Flowers.
Yeah.
He signed for $1.3 million in August. Miles Jack signed in August and retired in August with the Philadelphia Eagles.
DeAndre Hopkins couldn't have helped. I don't know if he was late July.
I think that he was July. I'm not sure. Regardless, I don't think. Again, I think NFL signings at this stage, there is the rare one, like there was a $10 million, I think it was Robert Quinn, I'm not sure, there was a $10 million signing, no, it was Ngakoue, I think, recently, where it's a guy who clearly was either dealing with a health thing or whatever, and there was big money waiting for him. Most of these, they're just not needle movers. And so I think Dalvin Cook's fine, but I don't think it's a needle mover in any direction.
Finally, Rodgers will start the Jets' final preseason game against the Giants on Saturday. He hasn't played in a preseason game since 2018. He has been doing a lot with the headset. He's actually a sneaky good announcer. Nick, do you like this idea?
Yes.
Him suiting up?
Yeah, listen, folks, I'm not trying to sound like a homer here. Just do what the Chiefs do in training camp and preseason. Who runs the hardest training camp in the NFL? Andy Reid. There's been a bunch of articles written about it. Who plays his starters throughout the preseason? Andy Reid. How do the Chiefs do to start every year? They're 5-0. It's because Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
They were 5-0 last year Alex Smith started. They have not lost a week 1 game in 9 years. Guys, Patrick Mahomes only started for 5 years. The idea, it became more in vogue. I think McVay really got the ball rolling on it, and then others of, you know what? It's preseason, play your starters. None at all. It's the ultimate preservation, all of it. That has not been merited out by what works. What we always see, and what do we hear about during the first month of football? Well, September is really the preseason now, right? You hear that like, oh, the defense is way ahead of the offenses. Teams are sloppy, except for the few teams who, you know when their preseason was? The preseason.
Bad tackling. Well, we haven't been tackling.
Right.
So I think it's a good idea.
I'm in agreement. It is a great idea. Look, for all the reasons you said, but also because this is new for Aaron Rodgers. I get it, he's a veteran and all that, but it's a new team. The offensive line has not been together. We don't even know if they'll be together Saturday, but you hope that they can at least put that unit out there, get him used to his receivers in game action. We know now they don't hit like they used to. They don't go full bore like they used to. You need to get some real action with your new quarterback. So, yeah, it's a smart move.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.